Lately, there seems a general malaise about your writing process. Ideas aren't flowing like they used to, you can't turn a phrase despite your best efforts. The characters and setting of your story seem sure to sink into a deep pit of literary mediocrity. You no longer leap towards your desk with vaunted enthusiasm, but rather slink towards it as one might slink towards a dentist's chair. Your home no longer resounds with the clickety-clack of your keyboard, but instead just the muffled sounds of your own sobbing. As your tears fall to the floor, so too do your ambitions, your hopes, your love of the craft. Friends, countrymen, countrywomen, you have found yourselves deeply ensnared in the dreaded writing slump. But fear not, for as terrible as they may be, the ever-present writing slump brings with it some potential upsides. Every cloud has a silver lining, as they say. It's always darkest before dawn, as they also say, unless it's cloudy. I can't necessarily cure you of your writing slump, but I can share with you some reasons that it's not so bad. Perhaps even some advantages or benefits that the thoughtful writer can gain from the very common writing slump. Starting with the first one, having a writing slump is a sign that you're a serious writer. Everyone who has ever quit writing has had a writing slump. Usually right at the point where they quit. I mean, let's face it, if the writing was flowing great, if you were loving what was on the page, if the words wouldn't stop coming out of you, then why would you stop writing? Most people stop the minute things get hard. So if your writing has been difficult for a while, if it's been harder to get out, if you've been in a writing slump, that's a sign that you aren't a quitter, because most people would quit before they even got to that point. If you've been stuck in a writing slump for a while and you're still going, you're still producing writing, then it's a sign of resilience. It's a sign that you're sticking with it. That doesn't necessarily make things easier, but it sure makes you sound tougher, because you are. Anyone can steer the ship when seas are calm. It takes a true boat person to man the helm when things get tough. Difficult times are a test of character. Everyone who has ever achieved anything has pushed through adversity at some point. Now, just because pushing through a writing slump is a valiant thing to do doesn't mean you shouldn't look where you're pushing. Benefit number 2 of a writing slump, it can alert you to problems in your process. Anytime that things aren't working great is a great time to evaluate why things aren't working great. It's a natural part of the creative process for things to go up and down. You'll have good times and bad times. That's inevitable. But it's also not something you should ignore. A writing slump could be a sign that something isn't working, either in your novel or in your process. Maybe that character, you know the one I'm talking about, who's been giving you problems really needs to be rethought. Maybe there's something in the plot that just isn't working. Maybe there's a scene that's causing problems further on in the story and you really need to go back and fix it. Maybe you've been trying to work from an outline and it's just not working. Maybe pantsing the story would be better. There are millions of things that can cause problems with either your process or your story. Whatever it could be that's causing your writing to slump could be a sign that it's time for a change. Digging into the reasons behind the slump is really important. You want to evaluate why you're in this mess in the first place. And one of the best excuses you have to experiment are when things are going poorly. When things are going well, there's a strong argument against experimentation because you always run the risk of ruining things. But if your writing is already making you miserable, then what have you got to lose? Switch things up, start a new project in a different genre, try a different writing method, keep an open mind, and experiment. You may find that this change is enough to zap you out of your slump, or maybe you'll produce something so atrocious that the writing you were producing in your slump doesn't seem so bad anymore. Either way, it can help. If there's been something you've been thinking about trying, but you're worried it wouldn't work out, or you're worried you couldn't do it, a slump is a great time to experiment with these new things because things are already not going well. And lastly, benefit number 3 of a writing slump, The bad times make the good times even better. Terms like good and bad inherently bring with them a sort of comparison. How can good writing be good if there wasn't bad writing to compare it to? How can you feel enjoyment if you can't also feel dread and despair? A mountain that's the same height as the land around it is not a mountain, same as a valley that doesn't reach lower than the world around it is not a valley. Your slump is only a slump in comparison to the good times, and the good times are only good in comparison to the slumps. You were not built to experience only pleasure, you were built to experience life, and life has its ups and downs, both of which are complementary features. Remember that. Keep going, stick with it, don't give up, and eventually you will come out of the slump, and you'll have a time to look back on that will make your next triumph even sweeter. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.